Good evening. If you'll indulge me for a few minutes, I have some very special guests I would like to introduce. If y'all would, as I call your name, please stand up and just stay standing, and I'll run through them real quick, and we can thank you for being here afterwards. Probably most importantly is Jim Shira of Dewey's Destin's Restaurant, who's hiding in the back room and brought those great crab cakes out there. There he is. Thank you. Ted Paco with the Sheriff's Department. You got to stand up. Shane Moody, one of our partners from the Chamber. Shane. Lockwood Warnett, Chamber Board member, also Destin Water Users. Don't let him sit down. Y'all stay up. Former council member Jim Wood and Tom Weidenhammer, also a former council member. Thank you all for coming. I'd also like to ask Council Member Rodney Braden to stand up. These are my bosses, by the way. Council Member Parker Destin. Council Member Jim Foreman. Council Member Kyron Marler. Councilmember Chatham Morgan. Councilwoman Rebel Ramswell. Councilmember Tuffy Dixon was under the weather tonight and begged off, so he had a very bad cold, and I was kind of happy he didn't come. We didn't want to be exposed to it. Welcome to the 32nd Annual State of the City Address. As most of you know in the room, I'm Mayor Scott Fischer, and it's my honor and privilege to speak with you this evening about our wonderful city. As you know, I was elected mayor by the citizens of Destin in March of 2016. For me, this past year has been exciting, challenging, surprising at times, and fulfilling. Being mayor has proven to be a great honor, and I am looking forward to sharing the city's accomplishments from 2016 with you this evening. One of our biggest accomplishments in 2016 was finding a new city manager to lead our staff here at the city. I'm going to give you a chance to applaud her in just a minute. I'm going to ask her to come up here and say a few words. We hired Carice Lejeune as the Destin city manager last May. I speak on behalf, I'm sure, of the entire city council when I say that we are very happy to have her with us. And at this time, I'd like to have her come up and say a few words about herself and the staff.
Thank you, Mayor. He actually told me that I was going to have to do this, so I just made a few notes so I wouldn't forget what I wanted to say. Thank you all so much, and thank you for coming tonight. This is my first State of the City, so I'm very excited about it. When I got here in May, which is about 9 months ago now, I received such a warm welcome from this community. I was just so happy to be here in Destin, and I can't tell you how pleased I am to be a part of this wonderful community. I found out, though, that I was truly blessed when I was introduced to the highly professional and knowledgeable staff that I get to work with every single day. Working in concert with our city council, we truly are Team Destin. We have been extremely busy over these past few months. We've been implementing and accomplishing all of the goals and objectives that our policymakers have been putting forth for us. We're working really hard to preserving the quality and heritage of life here in Destin. We're maintaining a high level of service for everyone, and we're making improvements that we are sure are going to benefit all the folks that live, work, and play here on a day-to-day basis. On behalf of staff and myself, I just want to thank y'all. We appreciate so much the support that we get from the citizens of Destin, and I do believe with all my heart that working together, we're going to be able to move forward and create a future Destin that we all can be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you, Carice. Carice has another meeting, is going to sneak out of here.
Not sneaking anymore.
I know that in the recent past, at least, the mayor gets up and talks about the city for about 40 minutes. One, I don't do that well at speaking that long, and two, hearing the same voice for 40 minutes can be a little much. So I'm going to ask members of the city staff to make some presentations tonight, and you heard the first one. The Destin City Council is made up of 7 hardworking volunteers who put in countless hours to serve the citizens of Destin. At one of my first meetings, a citizen expressed concern that the council was splintered and needed to come together. I disagree. As you are well aware, you have elected a diverse body of officials to carry out the governing actions of the city. I believe this is truly a good thing. We all come from different backgrounds, different occupations. We have different associates, but we all have a passion to make Destin a better place, not just for next week, but for our grandchildren and our children. I believe that democracy works best when the people are represented by a diverse group that is willing to stand up for what they believe, but more importantly, are willing to listen to their constituents and represent them at council meetings. Here is some insight to your diverse group. Councilmember Rodney Braden is a lifelong Destin resident and local contractor. Councilmember Tuffy Dixon is a lifelong Destin resident and a retired Destin fire chief. Councilmember Parker Destin is a lifelong Destin resident, attorney, and family businessman. Councilman Jim Foreman is a longtime Destin resident and retired lieutenant colonel. Councilman Kyron Marler is a lifelong Destin resident and a maintenance technician. Councilman Chad Morgan is a lifelong Destin resident and business owner and entrepreneur. And finally, Councilwoman Preble Ramsell is a longtime Destin resident and dean at Columbia Southern University, and I should announce her as Councilwoman and Dr. Preble Ramsell. Council members need to have a grasp of the complexity of the law and awareness of the risk and potential rewards of a change. The law of unlimited consequences is in full effect, and a bad decision can undermine years of hard work. A counselor must also be able to think outside the box, willing to consider creative solutions to reach a win-win outcome for all concerned. The council performs 4 crucial functions that few other public bodies are required to perform in a single meeting: representation, legislation, judiciary, and oversight. I frankly had no idea how many hours this volunteer job was going to require, and sometimes I grumble about it at times. Quit laughing, Karen. But there's nothing that I enjoy more than getting to come to work with this fine group of people who are so dedicated to make Destin a place to be proud of, or make Destin a place to be proud to call home. If you've seen a Destin City Council meeting, you're well aware that we tackle issues that pop up on a weekly, sometimes daily basis. This is to be expected as our environment is ever changing, and certain situations as well as opportunities will always need immediate attention. However, something that is always at work, albeit quietly at times, the council's progression toward Destin's vision. That vision is, quote, to be a world-class beach, fishing and family-friendly resort, to be a quality residential community with an authentic, historic harbor and easy mobility, and to be a community that residents take pride in. Each spring, the council, along with city staff, meet to discuss the vision of the city, track progress, modify goals as necessary. Our vision is a carefully thought-out idea based on the collective input of your elected officials. I think this is special as it always provides a guide for the direction of our great city. Further, our council operates with a strategic focus, which is the following: to be financially sound city, providing service value, have world-class beaches at Fishing Harbor, improve mobility and connectivity, provide high quality of life and safety for families, support quality development and revitalization. With this in mind, we have a solid roadmap for our path forward. You've heard the commercial. Now I'll get into the reason you're here tonight. A review of what was accomplished in 2016. That is the current state of our city, which for me begins with our financial status and outlook. Something I've learned in my year as mayor is that our city staff works at the highest level of transparency and accountability. So much so that our finance staff has received an award for the past 21 years in a row for its reporting on the finances of the city. This is an incredible accomplishment and something we should be proud of. Properly allocating tax dollars, finding additional funding sources when needed, and keeping costs down are all things that the tax-paying residents deserve. And that's exactly what is taking place every day in our city government. Recently, I sat down with Bragg Farmer, the city's finance director, to get a financial overview of the city. Let's take a look. Bragg, we report to the citizens of Destin that the city is financially sound. Can you shed some light on what that really means?
Well, every year when we prepare our budget, we're required to balance our budget. Unlike the federal government or even the state government, we're required to spend no more than we project as our revenue. Some of those revenue estimates come from the state, other ones we produce internally, but as a whole, we tend to balance our budget just on our incoming revenue for that current year. We do have a fund balance, which we occasionally dip into, but it's usually for projects that the citizens would see on a normal basis, maybe a road or a grant matching amount, just to make up the shortfall that we didn't have when that big project came along. But as a whole, our citizens can be happy that we only spend the revenue we bring in.
The city of Destin has incurred some debt over the years, but you've done an excellent job of restructuring that debt. Can you tell us about it?
Sure. About 3 to 4 years ago, as the interest rates on debt nationwide, whether it was a home debt, a car loan, bond debt, they were all coming down to historical lows. At that time, the city debt was interest rate was ranging from about 4.5% up to around 6%. And with bond debt, what happens is you kind of have a lower teaser rate, and as the bond matures, the interest rate goes up. So we were going to be experiencing higher debt service as time went on. 2 years ago, we went in and refinanced all of our debt, which reduced our interest rate to a 2.7 to a 3.4% interest rate. Essentially, we cut our interest payments in half. And those funds we use to reprogram back into the city budget to be spent on projects throughout the city that would benefit all the citizens.
With all that the city is doing, you see a time when Destin's dependency on the 2% ad valorem tax may not be sufficient to support the city or inhibit its ability to continue toward its vision.
I think sometime in the future that issue is going to have to be addressed. We've been very lucky with the city, with the 2% cap. The highest our millage rate's ever gotten to is about 1.8. We're currently at 1.615. But there is a requirement by the state that all cities maintain at least a 3% millage rate to receive any shared revenue, which is the revenue that all the citizens pay. It goes to Tallahassee, and then it comes back to us through a distribution by the state. Currently at the 2% cap, we couple that with the 1% at the fire department to get our 3% cap. At some point, the legislature could make a change and require us to have at least that 3% cap. And if that happens, we certainly need to be out in front of it and do it before we even need the funds, because we certainly don't need, from a funding standpoint, to go to 3 mills. But at some point, we do need to address that, because we will get to that 2% mill cap, and it's better to address it now than it is in the future when we have no choice but to go up.
By the state requiring a 3% cap, that does not mean the city would have to spend even a nickel more of that ad valorem tax money, or collect a nickel more of that tax money. We would only have to have it as part of our charter that we have a 3 mil cap.
That's correct. I can't foresee this city ever spending up to a 3% cap. I can never see us getting to 3 mills. In fact, it's going to be hard for us to get to 2 mills. But there does need to be a change, I believe, in the charter sometime in the future when we at least get a charter provision that allows us to go to a 3% cap so that we meet all the state mandated requirements for shared revenue.
It's really outstanding that Destin has one of the lowest millage rates in the state. The citizens of Destin are asked to pay the very minimal to support a city. But if you really want to provide good city services, grow the city in the future, can this continue?
I believe so. I mean, I would ask every citizen when they get their tax bill to take a look at it. And I know it can be very confusing, but if you look at the city of Destin portion of that tax bill, of a total tax bill, we only make up about 11.5% actually comes back to the city. The rest goes to the school board and the county and the other taxing districts within the county. And so the city has been able to manage itself in a very, very efficient manner with such a low millage rate. In fact, it's one of the lowest in the whole state. And if you couple that with the other revenue sources that we get, we go out and we try to get grants, especially for a lot of these big capital projects. It's much more feasible for the city to finance that through grants, whether they're state grants, federal grants, or sometimes a DEP grant or some other state organization grant. We also get a half-cent sales tax, which gets distributed back to the city. Communication service tax. We get franchise fees from Gulf Power, from Waste Management, from the gas district. So there's a lot of different revenue sources that come into the city that aren't specifically designed for one thing. But it does allow us to keep that millage rate down around 1.615. And it also helps us keep all those recreation programs and community center programs at a low enough rate that it's not a detriment to a citizen wanting to participate and it's just too expensive. So from a standpoint of overall for the city, we really do a great job with keeping that millage rate lower.
Bragg, I really appreciate you taking the time to explain this to us. It's clear that our city is fiscally responsible and is on a good path financially.
Thank you.
Like Bragg mentioned, we are lucky to have secured grant funding for many projects that would otherwise go unfunded. While grants are never guaranteed, we realize how important they are to the community's future. Economic development, quality of life, and the preservation of our heritage and environment. We accomplished so much for the residents of Destin on a tight budget, and I'm proud of the progress we have made moving many large-scale projects along without using our residents' tax dollars. These include Norego Point Stabilization Project. This is a nearly $11 million project funded by a grant and managed by the Department of Environmental Protection. While the project technically began several years ago, in 2016, we saw movement with the completion of the design and public presentation, which included a project timeline. DEP has reported that the bid for construction, actually they reported it was going to go out February the 14th, so I've modified this slightly. It's supposed to go out in the next couple of weeks. I know some of you have heard that for more than 1 year. But we feel fairly positive this month those bids will go out. And plans call for construction by September of this year. As you hopefully already know, in 2015, the city was told that the Trust for Public Land would purchase a piece of property on Calhoun Avenue, build a beautiful park, then hand it over to the city along with operation and maintenance funding for 10 years. This is truly incredible. Throughout 2016, our staff worked with state on the plans to construct the park that will be named after the founder of our city, Captain Destin. Late last year, we received final plans for the park, and I am again pleased to say we are scheduled to break ground in the next couple of months and open this park before year's end. Two other projects to note when discussing grant-funded improvements to our city is the future Captain Royal Melvin Heritage Park on Destin Harbor. and the renovation of Clement Taylor Park on Calhoun Avenue. Both of these projects are scheduled to receive Restore Act funding, which is currently being held by the Federal Treasury Department. Our grants manager has tracked the movement of these projects through the grant process and understands that the funds are expected to be released soon, and hopefully we'll be expending those monies this year. Heritage Park will receive $1.25 million, and Clement Taylor Park will receive $750,000. I mentioned earlier how the council sometimes has to take advantage of opportunities that just pop up. In mid-2016, after a couple of years of discussions, we learned that the owners of the property next to Joe's Bayou were finally ready to seriously discuss accepting the city's offer to buy that land. Thanks to our hardworking staff, we were able to purchase the old CMEX property of 3.9 acres November 2016 and complete the footprint for Joe's Bayou's recreation area, which now totals more than 17 acres. While we did use general fund reserves to make the $2 million purchase in December of 2016, city staff submitted a grant application for nearly $4.5 million to develop a master plan for the entire park area and construct environmental and infrastructural improvements based on the master city plan. City Council just recently awarded a bid for the removal of the gravel and stone on the property, and the city is hopeful that the grant will be fulfilled. As you see, we are making a lot of headway. We are proactively looking for every grant dollar that is available, largely through future BP restitution opportunities. And staff continuously looks for grant funding opportunities to improve our city. Another area we made progress in last year was roadways. While it is no secret that traffic is a top concern for most, if not all residents of Destin, the city is continuing to find ways to alleviate traffic congestion and provide a safe, walkable community that benefits residents, businesses, and visitors alike. In 2016, we secured a local agency program funding from the state to design and construct a pedestrian pathway along Calhoun Avenue, connecting Clement Taylor Park to the community center on Seibert Avenue. This effort, largely grant-funded, lends itself to our goal to provide walkable pedestrian pathways within the community. Directly related to the vehicle traffic is the Florida Department of Transportation's 3R project. Last year, the City Council was able to provide input into the state project that impacts the heart of our community, the Highway 98 corridor. With traffic increasing on this main artery every day, highly transient traffic, I might add, it is imperative that we find ways to slow the vehicles down. You notice I didn't say discourage traffic, I just said slow traffic. With that, the City Council suggested to the FDOT that the lanes be narrowed and a dedicated bike lane be added both to the westbound and eastbound outside lanes. The idea is that narrower lanes will calm traffic, and a dedicated bike lane will encourage, again, an alternative to motor vehicles. Along with the changes to the lanes, the 3R project included roadway resurfacing from Marler Bridge to Airport Road, as well as right-of-way improvements, landscaping, and updated traffic signs. The project is expected to begin in the state budget year of 2017-18. A major accomplishment completed in 2016 was the addition of the 5 pedestrian activated signals between Chick-fil-A and Stallman Avenue on Highway 98. In partnership with FDOT and in advance of the 3R project, we were able to have these signals installed to provide additional safe crossing for pedestrians along the most walkable area of the highway. It is incumbent upon the city to protect the safety and welfare of its citizens and visitors, and these signals are a testament to our commitment to do just that. And finally, we come to the Crosstown Connector. This short connection between Beach and Benning has proved to be a monumental task. However, we are making progress. Last year, the city and its consultant held public meetings addressing the need for the roadway and overall costs. Currently, the project is on FDOT's future funding list, as well as part of the city's strategic focus to improve mobility and connectivity. Our current goal is to finalize engineering plans and begin right-of-way acquisition for this project. Because this largely comes down to funding ability, there is no set timeline. However, it is a high priority with the city and will continue to look for funding opportunities to make this a reality. In 2016, we saw great improvements in our stormwater infrastructure, largely thanks to grants from state and federal government. We were able to replace the inadequate pump station for the Heritage Run subdivision last year with a $500,000 grant from the state. We owe former Representative, now Congressman Matt Gaetz, and his father, former Senator Don Gaetz, a huge debt of gratitude for their help in securing these funds. The city contributed approximately $300,000 to the project, and now the subdivision no longer floods when it rains. We've had some substantial rains since the completion of the project to test out these new pumps, and they're working perfectly. If you live in the Indian Bayou subdivision, you currently are seeing the result of a $3.6 million federal grant project to improve water quality and quantity issues directly related to stormwater runoff. The Indian Bayou portion of the project began in late 2016 and is wrapping up soon. 5 other highly affected areas will follow, with bids going out this winter and spring. Construction on these 5 areas will be staggered to lessen the nuisance to the neighborhoods. They include Sandalwood Drive, Spring Street, Whippoorwill Avenue, Juanita Avenue, Snapper Drive, Maltezo Street, and Calhoun Avenue. Lastly, we are working through the process of updating the city's stormwater master plan, which identifies potential flooding areas and water quality deficiencies throughout the community. It is necessary to update this plan to be in compliance with state and federal guidelines. The new field data and modeling will allow us to plan future projects related to stormwater issues. The updated stormwater master plan is also imperative in obtaining the grants we so greatly need to complete these projects. The council members are far from the only volunteers that help make our city run. In fact, I see several sitting in the audience tonight. I'm sorry I didn't introduce you by name. It is important to our community to understand the level of citizen participation in our local government. We have 9 active committees that directly report to the City Council. These committees tackle issues through the direction of the City Council, as well as act as an arm of information reporting back to the City Council on things that may need attention. Many of the projects that the city brings to fruition starts with these committees. I am proud to report that we have a knowledgeable and dedicated group of volunteers in Destin that help and advise City Council. Here are a few of the projects and accomplishments of these committees. The Environmental Park and Recreation Committee / Tree Board began working on the daunting task of establishing a tree ordinance to protect our community's heritage and environment. The City Council is set to review a draft ordinance sometime this spring. The Harbor Community Redevelopment Agency Advisory Committee spent time last year working with stakeholders to improve the Heritage District. This included discussions and direction regarding mobile vending regulations and livery vessel permitting, just to name a few. And the Tower Center Community Redevelopment Agency Advisory Committee saw its goal to add landscaping improvements to the airport road come closer to reality with the execution and completion of the airport road safety study. The audit, along with recommending right-of-way improvements, also suggested improvements to the road surface at the curve, which should reduce traffic accidents in that area. Currently, FDOT's 5-year transportation plan includes signage, pavement, parking in fiscal year 2019. As the city manager mentioned earlier, we are fortunate to have a dedicated staff to carry out the council's vision. Traditionally, the mayor talks about each department's accomplishment, but as I stated earlier, I'd like for you to hear from the department heads themselves to understand just what the staff has been working on this past year.
Hello, I'm Karen Haynes, the City of Destin's Community Development Director. 2016 saw many changes in our department, as well as a coordinated effort by the Community Development team to make Destin a great place to live, work, and play. The first change is me. I began working for the city in October 2016. I'm excited to be a part of Team Destin and to serve the community I now call home. We owe Steve Schmidt, the city's development manager, a huge debt of gratitude for serving as the interim director of the Community Development Department for many months last year. Additional changes in our department include the addition of a code enforcement officer, a new administrative assistant, and moving a part-time building permit clerk to full-time status. These are all good things. The need for staff in the department means our economy is now picking up. The Community Development Department's 3 divisions, code enforcement, planning, and building, each had huge milestones and tremendous accomplishments last year. First, the Code Enforcement Division took on the monumental task of regulating the short-term rental registration business. This was a daunting task because it had never been done before in the city of Destin. However, with the addition of a code enforcement officer whose sole job is the administration of the program, we are now moving in the right direction. In 2016, we identified all 1,500 potential short-term rental properties in the city and have successfully registered or in the process of registering nearly half of these. We consider this a success and a huge step forward. The Planning Division has been busy with development reviews, as well as working on ordinances to protect the health, safety, and welfare of our residents and businesses. These ordinances include harbor and waterways regulations, livery vessel regulations, tree removal regulations, development standards for short-term residential projects, parking enforcement, paid parking initiatives, and vendor regulations along the harbor. The Building Division saw a 25% increase in permits in 2016 over 2015. The Building Division is an essential component in our process to ensure that all projects, big or small, commercial or residential, meet development standards that are in place to provide a safe environment. As you can see, 2016 was a busy and productive year for the Community Development Department. Many of our projects have carried forward to the new year, and the Community Development team will continue to work hard to improve our community.
Hello, my name is Lance Johnson, and I am the Parks and Recreation Director for the City of Destin. I just wanted to take a few moments to recap what happened in our department in 2016. First of all, I couldn't do this without the amazing staff that we have in our department. We have roughly 16 people on our recreation staff and another 16 people on our park staff who take care of all of our parks and facilities around the city. The park staff takes care of close to 24 facilities, including our parks and some of our other city facilities throughout the area. Our recreation staff, including Lisa Firth, our Deputy Director, and our Administrative Assistant, Sherry Bethay, help to keep the programs running throughout the city and throughout the year. We have ongoing programs for youth, for adults, and for seniors, and we have a large number of special events that take place each year, thanks in part to all of these people. Some of the bigger items that we had take place during 2016 were some renovations to the Morgan Sports Center. Specifically, our sports fencing was showing its age, it was showing some rust, it was showing some wear and tear. And that's good because that means it's being used and used well. But nevertheless, we want to keep our facilities up to our standards and safe for the public, so we undertook a program to replace the sports fencing at that facility. Unfortunately, we did not have enough in our capital project fund to cover the entire amount, so our staff volunteered to step up and take down the fencing themselves and prep the area to receive the new fence fabric that was installed by our contractor. We also had a great relationship with the Tourist Development Department this year, who funded us for approximately $400,000 in improvements and maintenance that we used throughout the year 2016. Some of the things that we accomplished with that money: we redecked some of the beach walkovers, we cleaned and sealed the entire harbor boardwalk the city takes care of. We also installed an ADA ramp at one of our facilities and plan to keep expanding that. The funding was also used to purchase commercial grade showers for our beach access points, and those are being installed at this moment. We look forward to to continuing this relationship with the Tourist Development Department, and they have already agreed to continue funding us in 2017. Finally, our sports tourism has grown immensely during the last 10 years. We started with about 4 tournaments per year in the year 2005 and ran 26 tournaments this year. That relates to about $250,000 in revenues for the city through rental fees, and also contributes hundreds of thousands of dollars to the local economy. We are hopeful and expect to continue these great efforts in the year 2017, and we look forward to serving the community. Thank you.
Hi, I'm David Campbell, the Public Services Director and City Engineer for the City of Destin. Public Services has 2 divisions, Engineering and Public Works. Our Public Works crews are responsible for the maintenance, repair, or reconstruction of 79 miles of roads, 90 miles of sidewalk, and all the associated drainage systems located within the right-of-way. For instance, our crews inspect over 400 drainage structures annually for sand buildup, cracks, or other issues that may cause operational problems with the drainage system. Our crews will then clean and repair the structure as necessary. We're also responsible to keep the right-of-way clear of vegetation and sand buildup on the roadway for the safety and welfare of our citizens and visitors. The annual right-of-way tree trimming typically generates between 500 and 1,000 cubic yards of debris, while a street sweeper removes approximately 200 cubic yards of sand annually. The department is also responsible for the inspection and maintenance of all fleet vehicles, heavy equipment, gators, mowers, small landscape equipment, and the management of our 62 properties, including inspection and maintenance of our 18 buildings. When our talented crews were not performing general maintenance this year, they were called on for several special projects. The interior renovation of City Hall and City Hall Annex, the repair of the interior and exterior wall of the Calhoun Room in the library, the removal of 6 derelict boats from our waterways, and the clearing of the intake structure for the harbor pumping station located approximately 2,000 feet offshore. You know, we have only 8 hard-working people in public works that accomplish all these important tasks for the city. We may be small, but we cast a big shadow. In the engineering side of the Public Works Department, we have an administration for the entire department where we manage over 80 expense accounts and 25 continuing service contracts. We have full in-house capability of field data collection, engineering, AutoCAD drafting, project management, and construction inspection. 2 of our design projects this year include the survey, design, permitting, and reconstruction of Regions Way and the survey and design of Indian Bayou Trail Resurfacing and Pathway Project. We've been exceptionally busy this year preparing requests for proposals for all of our citywide drainage projects, our Calhoun Avenue Pathway Project, and the cleanup of the Cemex concrete property. Construction inspections have kept us very busy as well with the Heritage Run Drainage Project, the Indian Bayou Drainage Project, and the Hutchison Street Repaving and Pedestrian Pathway Project. All in all, 2016 was a very good year. I'm very fortunate to work with such dedicated and hardworking people in the Public Services Department, and I know they are proud of their accomplishments for the City of Destin.
Hi, I'm Urati Burns, Destin Library Director, and it is my pleasure to acquaint you with all of the exciting things that happened in 2016 and will continue to happen at our library. As you approach this lovely facility, which I think is the prettiest building in town, of course, you'll see that we've got magnificent oak trees, we have beautiful grounds, and we have lovely statuary. This didn't just happen naturally. The Destin Garden Club, one of our partners, spends a lot of time each month upgrading flower beds, changing decor, doing seasonal decorations. Now when you step through the front door, you will see a magnificent award-winning library. In our interior, besides books, which you would expect to have, we have different programming opportunities. If you stop at the front desk and turn left, you would go towards the Calhoun Room, where we host art exhibits, we host book discussion groups, writers groups, have musical programs, poetry programs, and we show films. Back to the central part of the library, you can see our computer lab, which is used by a number of businesses and organizations to train employees. They're available to everyone, free of charge. If you are interested in genealogy, programs are offered there as well. Next, as you go down the library stacks, you'll see that there is a digital media lab, and this is available for everyone to use as well. If you're a businessman wanting to film a commercial, come in here to do that. If you're a student working on a project, it's there for you. But the most exciting thing I have to tell you about in 2016 is an educational program that was started here, Coding Club. Happens twice a week. It gives middle school students the opportunity to learn how to write computer code. How exciting is that? If you haven't come to our library, come on in, use the facility. As a matter of fact, everything that you saw was produced in our digital media lab, which we encourage you to visit.
With a staff capable of accomplishing all of these things, I'm confident that we can continue to make Destin an incredible place to live, work, and play. One staff member was not mentioned, well, there was quite a few not mentioned, but one I would like to personally thank is Doug Rayner, our Public Information Manager. He directed this, produced it, edited us down, maybe not tight enough, and we gave him a budget of $1 to produce all of this, so he used the lab at the library. Anything that wasn't existing within the library, that was the only tools we allowed him to operate with. Actually, we didn't allow him to spend the dollar. We still got the dollar. Very efficient people. Other initiatives worth noting include the city's partnership with the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office. Not only do we receive incredible service year-round from Sheriff Ashley and his deputies, we also worked together in 2016 to make sure our community and its visitors were safe during spring break. This initiative proved to be successful, and we are working again this year to provide the same high level of service. Lastly, I'm sure you're all glad to hear that. Lastly, a good bit of work on our comprehensive plan took place last year. This is critical to the city's ability to manage progress as it provides a vision and framework for development. In June 2016, the City Council held a workshop and developed action items to move along the update to the comp plan. We have recently hired a consulting firm to assist staff in refining the plan based on council direction. A draft plan is expected to be presented to the City Council by early summer. 2016 has provided the City of Destin with a strong foundation for many of the projects that will be completed in 2017 and through 2019. Not only did the city accomplish many of the goals for 2016, but is much better prepared to move forward. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the state of the city, and I want to thank all of you for coming, and I apologize to many of you. I talked about 3 of the committees that work with the council members. There was 4 of the 9. There was 6 I did not discuss, and they did a lot of work, as a lot of other individuals did for the city last year. I'm sorry, but I'm afraid my new hip would not allow me to go into as much detail as maybe they deserved, and I'm sure your tushes wouldn't either. So, good night and thank you.